I am your host, FatDag. You're listening to Wise Advice. My weight loss journey failed when I focused on how. It wasn't until I switched my focus to why that I truly transformed myself. Join the show on the web at fatdag.com and follow along on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, all at Wise Advice. Send in your comments, your questions, your celebrations. I'll include them as part of the show. But before we dive in, remember, when you're out of points, stop eating points. Hey, I'm honored to be your wingman as we walk through this journey together because I believe in you. I open the show every single time with that because it's true. I believe in you. Welcome to episode 306. And I want to tell you something. I had a great call this morning in the Patreon community. One of the benefits that I do is I open up my calendar to give you access to just chat one-on-one. We open up a Zoom link if you want. I prefer the Zoom link, and we chat one-on-one. Today I had an opportunity to chat with some amazing folks, one in particular, and we talked about that belief statement. Like, do you believe that you can do it? And the reason that I confidently say I believe in you is because I've seen countless people do it. And so even in your own mind, you know what you're trying to do is actually possible. The question now becomes am I willing to put in the work to bring that possibility to life? This isn't about your capability, because you're certainly capable of doing this. This is now about, am I willing? Do I want to? Will I continue day after day, make the choices that support the journey of which I want to be on? I believe you can do that. I believe you have the willpower to do it. I believe you have the strength to do it. I believe you have every single thing you need to do it. So I open every single show with, I believe in you. Nothing will stop me from ever believing that what you are trying to do is possible. Keep up the amazing work. Keep it up, and let's just prove the world how awesome we are. So, a handful of updates before we dive into the first email, and I'll warn you ahead of time. It's going to take me about 4 or 5 minutes to get through what I want to tell you. That gives you an opportunity to walk around the room, go get a box of tissues. You're going to need it for the first email of this show. I promise you will. But I want to give you a couple little updates. First is strange things have happening in my world. So about a week and a half ago, I got a random email in my inbox from a friend of mine with a job offer and said, hey, Mike, are you interested? And I kind of looked hard and long at it and said, I really like working from home. I really like, coming on the podcast, once a week. And I really like doing all this fun stuff. But there's some reality. If you guys remember back when we started this podcast, the international tour, right? 2018, 2019, I was out, touring and visiting different cities. Certainly COVID has an impact right now, but the bigger impact is when I retired from the Air Force, my discretionary cash fund significantly was reduced. So for the last year or so, I've been kind of piecing this whole thing together, hoping that this star would fall and something would happen, and all of a sudden, boom, we would just find a way to be together. And the Patreon community is, I love you guys, and so you really are helping significantly to keep that dream alive, but it's not really all the way to what full-time income was back in the day. So when this job offer came in my inbox, I said, I got to take a look. I got to figure out if this is something I can do. The number one priority for me was, could I balance that with the podcast? Because this is my life. This is something I'm doing for the rest of my life. I promise you there. And this community means so much to me. So I didn't want to jump into that. So I looked at it and I sent a resume back. It took me about 10 seconds to kind of create a resume. I sent it back and I had a first interview. They said, okay, let's do a second interview. I did a second interview, and then a couple days later I did a third interview. And then they called and offered me a job to work 100% from home in the cybersecurity field, lots of cool technology stuff. So the reason I share all that with you is for the next month, for the month of July, bear with me as I try and figure this out. My commitment to you, my promise to you is I'm not going anywhere. But as we try and navigate, like what work hours, even though I'm working from home, what work hours I'm able to kind of finagle and do everything else around, I had to make some changes. So bear with me for the month of July. I had to resign from one of my workshops. I still lead a workshop on Sunday night, still lead a workshop on Tuesday night. I still lead a workshop on Thursday night, and I still lead 2 workshops Saturday morning. The Wednesday morning workshop, however, I had to resign that one because that one yet is not going to work in the schedule. So that's the update in the job front. The good news is now once I start getting really good at that job and they start paying me, then we're going to do some fun stuff as a community. I promise you. We're going to have a lot of fun together. So keep up the amazing work. If you want me to get off of that job quicker, then sign up to become a patron, and I'll give the whole thing up tonight. I promise you I will. But we've got really a lot to do in that lane. So that's the deal there. Inside, for patrons and for everybody, I should say, we've built a community in Discord. And the Discord community, you can find the link on WhysAdvice.com. Go to that too, but FatDag.com, click on the Whys Advice podcast link. And you'll see a link that says join the Discord community. I've opened that up to everybody. I've sectioned some of it off for patrons only, but we have a very large community of people who are talking about cycling and recipes and 0 Point foods and mindset. And we're doing that as a kind of a group chat thing. The cool thing about it is there's no spam, there's no promoted posts, there's no advertisements. It's an opportunity for you to connect with other wingmen with no distractions. And so as you know, and I love Facebook, and we're live on Facebook right now, of course, but I love Facebook, but every once in a while I'm scrolling through and then all of a sudden I get an alert of something I didn't want to see or didn't care about, and it just distracts me. Inside this other community is a chance to say, no, we can just focus on what we need to be. The other kind of cool thing is when I'm online in that community, you can look at my little profile and it tells you I'm online. If I'm online, it means I'm sitting in front of my computer interacting and chatting with you. So ask me whatever it is you want to know. So last but not least, FatDag.com as well gives you the WhysrMe workbook. It's where you walk through the 5 questions. Do you believe you can do it? What are your expectations? What's in your way? What's the hardest thing you've ever had to do? Who is responsible for your success? I hear from so many of you that once you finally sit down with a pen and print this thing out, it changes you. Because it's kind of like writing into the show right now, is that once you finally get it written down, it's different than thinking about it. So I want to give away 10,000 copies of this workbook. It's completely free, fatdag.com. Click on the link, get the workbook. If you would like me to print one for you, I've printed a handful of them. You can order one. Those ones aren't free, but you can print your own for free. But if you want me to print it, then go ahead and order that from the merchandise link, and I'll get one sent out to you. I think they're gorgeous. Janine says they're gorgeous. I'm working on another iteration of one in the future too. So just keep in mind that a lot going on. And so sorry to fill you up the first, what are we in, 10 minutes into this, kind of fill you up with a lot of information, but I just wanted to catch you up with what's going on. Remember, just like I said, please be patient for the month of July. Next week, I'm not sure about the live show, only because I start on Monday, and then 2 days later, I got to figure out if I can make a show at 4 p.m. or not. After that, I will start having a schedule, and we will adjust everything, because everything I'm doing is incredibly important to me. The only reason I wanted to go back to get a full-time job was to help continue to use that opportunity to build what we're doing here. So that is a supplement to what we're doing, is not taking the place of whatsoever. So keep that in mind. So, all right, you've had a chance to get your tissues. I tell you, folks, when I ask you for email, I know sometimes what you're going through is incredibly difficult. I know that, and when you take the courage to share it with me, and you trust me to share it with the community, my heart just completely beams with joy, because that finally tells me, or truly tells me, that we have established a level of trust that is just phenomenal, and we've established it essentially as strangers who know each other from the internet. So when you take the time to pour your heart out in an email, I value that. I really do. And so thank you for doing that. And of course, that's what keeps this show going, is your email. So now is your opportunity. Send an email in onair@fatdag.com. Lisa just told me the other day that I don't know what the number is, but if the email box doesn't fill up pretty soon, that we may have to start doing something. Yeah. So anyway, so email in onair@fatdag.com. Lorrie did, and it says, "Hi, Mike. I remember when you started your journey this last time. I cheered you on as I also worked on my journey. I was one of your original patrons, and then life happened. I thought it was time that I put my story on paper. I was rocking along, enjoying travel nursing. The kids were grown, and hubby and I were living our best lives. June 13th, 2017, I was down 70 pounds. And then, bam, I had a heart attack at 46 years old. I was in excellent shape, exercising, climbing mountains, etc. Thankfully, that was the case because I went in for a heart cath and I woke up on a ventilator. The doctor said my improvements are what saved my life. Boy, it did a number on my mind, though, and I could not seem to get my mojo back. I plugged along, gaining and losing the same 10 pounds over and over for about a year. Then, here I was again, another major health scare. I was diagnosed with a rare blood cancer that turns out was a contributing factor in my heart attack. Again, I pulled my bootstraps up and continued to try to get back on my weight loss journey with little to no success, except for I was actually kind of good at maintaining. Well, February 12th, 2019, our lives changed forever. I was on the phone with my 20-year-old daughter, Madison, as she was driving home. I heard her friend say something about a truck, and then silence. She had pulled out in front of a Mack truck. Madison and her friend were killed instantly. I'm so thankful they didn't suffer. As you can imagine, I went back to my old friend food for comfort, and here I am a little over a year later, just 20 pounds from my all-time high of 296. Well, now let's talk about my new why. Kinsley. She is a blessing, my granddaughter that Madison left us. She was 2 at the time that her mom passed and is now a firecracker at 4 years old. I need to be healthy for this baby. She has been through so much. I cannot change Madison's death. I cannot change that I have cancer. What I can change is my lifestyle, the food that I'm eating, and my activity. I could go on forever taking oral chemo and no other treatments needed. My body could also flip a switch and I would be heading to a stem cell transplant very fast. My why is to live. Not just live, but live as the healthiest version of me that I can be. I want to be around to see Kinsley grow up. Well, if you made it to the end, thanks for reading. I'm currently back on the program. I'm cheering you on, Mike. We can do this. Lorrie. Lorrie, the most obvious emotion that just comes to me right now is just complete shock and just complete love for you, your entire family, for Kinsley, for Madison and her friend. Can't even imagine what that feels like. And so when I go through the 5 questions of, as we work through the workbook and what's your journey, and the question I ask is, what's the hardest thing you've ever been through? I know it's at that moment that stories like this make it to the top, and the emotions come flooding back. And I know that's not easy for any of us. And so I have the easy job of I just have to read your email, and I have to share your story with so many people because you've offered to share it with me to share. And so my job on this end is easy, is to say, it's easy to say, I'm sorry, I love you, the community loves you, we will do whatever we need to do to help you. That's the easy part. The difficult part is exactly where you are, and you're doing phenomenal at it. The difficult part is for you to actually finally get it out on paper, and that begins the healing process to say, I'm moving on. Moving on in such a way where you understand that there are so many other factors in life now that are important. And what truly is important isn't a cupcake. It isn't a slice of pizza. It isn't even going to dinner with friends. Right? What's truly important is taking care of ourselves in every single opportunity, because we don't know what tomorrow brings. We don't know what 10 seconds from now is going to bring. We can only live in the exact moment that we're in and make the best choice we can in the moment. All of the things that you've gone through have proven to you and proven to me and proven to this entire community that you are incredibly strong. The fact that you were able to get this out on paper a year later says a lot about you mentally. And I appreciate that. I appreciate the fact that you've trusted us with your heart to share that. I know Kinsley has an amazing opportunity now to live under your care and your guidance because you're going to remain healthy for her. You're going to do everything you can to give that child the life that she deserves. And I'm incredibly proud of you for recognizing that. And as you now, day after day, you can look into her eyes and you get to see your why every single day. And you get to see it and go, okay, this is why saying no to this meal or to that donut or to that thing or doing some activity, this is why it matters. She needs you. And you need and will, and you are going to be there for her for a very, very long time. And so, we started at the same time, and life for all of us just comes at us differently. What's interesting about this community, I said this the other day to someone, is that there's a lot of similarities amongst many members of the community. The last I looked, the podcast has been downloaded 3.5 million times or something like that. So in that reference of how many people that we have reached and have the opportunity to hear this story, somebody somewhere has a very similar story to yours, and they become uplifted and encouraged, and hopefully that's what bonds us together, is that we have this common experience, whether it be through weight loss or through grief or common experiences bind us together. And by you reaching out and sharing it, is there someone right now that's slowly starting to form a bond and say, okay, well, I can do this. If Lorrie, after all that she's been through, if Lorrie can say, okay, I'm building up again, then I can do it too. And so, Lorrie, all the things you got going on, and your cancer diagnosis and your life changing forever, one after another, blood scares and heart attacks and all that stuff, and you're still in it to win it. Think about that for a second. How easy would it have been to just be like, you know what, fine, I'm out. That's not fair to the world. That's not fair to your family. That's not fair to Kinsley. It's certainly not fair to you, and you've chosen not to go that route. Proud of you. Incredibly proud of you. Thank you for really taking the courage to document it and get it on paper. And you have my email address. Reach out if I can help you in any way ever. I'd be honored to do so. Nancy writes in out of Austin, Texas, second email from this show, and says, Dear FatDag, as I started to write this letter to you to share my journey and identify my whys, I realized I was hungry. Well, lunch ended about an hour ago, and now it's time for dessert. Fat-free yogurt, fresh cherries, and a 1-point oatmeal cookie from Melissa's. I'm proud of the fact that I can enjoy and find delicious low-point dessert while my husband eats a piece of cake from one of our favorite restaurants. The cake is left over from my birthday celebration of about a week ago. I share these food facts because I've incorporated healthy foods in my diet, and I do not feel deprived. I love my yogurt, my fruit, my cookie, and my dessert. It was fun to order the lemon rosemary cake from the restaurant for my birthday evening. I enjoyed the splurge, but it's now not how I eat normally. Normally, I would surf the WhysRMe tab in my app and look for new dishes to cook. This morning, I made Chef Eric Greensman's mac and cheese with the creamy squash sauce to take as my contribution to my son's house tomorrow. We're going to be grilling outdoors. I frequently take my healthy WW foods to social gatherings, and I always make enough to share. The reason I'm an unofficial lifetime member of WW is because it gives me so many resources to be on this journey, to continue on this journey the rest of my life, and to be successful on this journey. I'm one of those people who's been overweight my whole life. My first memory of feeling ashamed of myself was when I was a young teenager. I was 13 years old and spending time at my grandparents' home with many of my family members. One of the things that we always did as kids when we visited my grandparents was to run to the corner grocery store and buy treats. I went to the store and I bought my treats. But for some reason that I don't quite remember, I hid behind the house to eat them. For some reason, I was ashamed for buying and eating the treats. I've always associated that shame with my weight. One of my whys is to not be ashamed of my body. My hope is that I will learn to be proud of my body no matter what I weigh. I want to have a healthy body weight. I'm not really sure what that is or what it'll look like. I'm not sure I'll even know when I arrive there. I'm 68 years old. I haven't had a healthy body weight since I was in my early 30s. I actually achieved lifetime status after my first son was born, and I lost all the baby weight and an extra 15 pounds that I'd gained since high school. That was when I weighed 125 pounds, though. It was that my current lifetime, was that my goal? I don't know. The closest I've come in the last 30 years was about 150 pounds. I felt good at that weight, but I don't think that was goal. Even though I've talked a lot about numbers, I'm committed to staying on this journey no matter what the number is. The truth is that WW encourages me to be healthy by eating healthy foods and staying active. On a recent podcast, you said that the way we achieve our goals is by consistently incorporating healthy choices in our daily life every day. I confess, consistency has been a challenge for me. I was a professional with a demanding job most of my career. I found it very difficult to focus on maintaining healthy habits and to focus on the work that I wanted to do because of my successful career. One of the reasons I've had success over the last 2 years is because I'm retired and I can make my health my focus. I've had even more success since then, since we've been self-isolating, because I'm home. I'm not volunteering. I'm not socializing. I have more time than ever to focus on what is healthy for me. So I'm cooking even more and being more active. What are my whys? To not be ashamed of myself and to be healthy and active. Well, thanks for asking. I'm a new listener, and obviously I'm finding your show inspiring. Thank you for encouraging us. You are a very positive force, and I appreciate you. With warm regard, Nancy. Well, Nancy, welcome to the Wise Advice Podcast. Good to have you here. Hopefully you're joining us live on the Facebook show. We do the podcast, generally speaking, every Wednesday afternoon. You can find it on FatDag.com or go to the Facebook page and watch when we do the live show. But thank you. Hopefully you're catching us live. I will kind of keep an eye in to see. But I appreciate you taking the time to writing this in. And I want to go a couple different directions with your email. I think the first one that I want to go to is this feeling of goal. I've talked about it on many episodes as we go through, and I still firmly believe this. Goal is a feeling. Goal isn't a number on the scale. And so here's the analogy and the example I want to use, and this was a while ago. I remember being down in Texas, down in Houston, when I went down to work with the folks at Dell, and I walked into a workshop back when we were able to have workshops. And I talked to the group, had a great little conversation, and then the coach asked me, she goes, "Hey, I have a member who's she's kind of struggling. Would you be willing to talk to her?" And it's been a couple years now, or a little while, so I forget the exact details. So I'll make some of them up as I go through here, but you'll get the gist. And she came up to me and she said, "Hey, I'm struggling. I'm really having a hard time." And I said, "Well, what is it that you're trying to do?" She goes, "I want to get to goal." I'm like, okay. And so, and I'll be honest with you, I confess, as a middle-aged man, and she was a middle-aged woman, I looked at her and I judged, and I said, "You look great to me. I'm not sure what it is you're trying to accomplish, but you're very attractive, you're very fit, you look great." And I'm trying to figure out what it is her question was, and she said, "I want to get to goal." And I said, "What's your goal weight?" She said, I forget the number. I think she said, "I want to get down to like 128. And I said, "Okay." And I said, "Well, why 128? And she said, "Well, I want to get to 128 because that's the weight I weighed in high school." I said, "Well, where are you at right now?" And it was just a handful of pounds up there. It was like 135 or something like that. And I said, "Okay, well, what's wrong with 135? Well, I just really want to get to 128. I said, well, with all the magic power and all the magic potion I have, I can do a lot of things, but I can't get you back to 128. I can only get you to 129. Would that be okay? If we could work really hard and I can get you to 129, would that be okay? And she looked at me and she's like, well, yeah, I think I would take that. That would be fine. I said, okay, so 128 isn't your goal? She goes, well, I said, well, you know what? Actually, I just did some look. I can really only get you to 130. She goes, yeah, that's fine. And I said, so here we are. We had this arbitrary number, and all of us do. We had this number in our head that for some reason we don't get to goal until the scale gives us that number. And 1 pound above it, and the whole world has gone to heck. Right? So I want you to ditch the number. And I get WW is tied heavily to the number. I get that. But there are certain things that you need to know about you and your journey that take more of a priority in your world. So, and one of them is do you feel good? If you feel good, then that's goal, right? Hop on the scale, call that number goal, and move on. Do you truly feel good? Do you really love the way you look? Do you love the way you feel? Are you energetic? Are you happy? Is your life going in the right direction? Man, you could be 110 pounds and be completely miserable. Well, great, you look great, but you're a jerk, right? That has nothing to do with your life. The journey we're on to help other people, to be an awesome person, doesn't matter what you weigh. I tell you, if the house caught fire today, and all of a sudden the fire department showed up, and it was the best fire department in town, I wouldn't say, hang on, guys, please hop on the scale before you start putting the house out. I need to know. I need to know how many of you are overweight before you start putting the house out, right? If you walk into the doctor's office, you don't say, hop on the scale before you can treat me. There is some internal worth that is more valuable than anything a scale will ever tell you. Now, the scale is an easier way to measure something, but boy, it only can measure your gravitational pull to the planet. It doesn't measure the size of your heart. No way does it have that ability. It doesn't measure your self-worth. So while I believe that we search for this opportunity to be a lifetime member, which is it's a great accomplishment. Congratulations. There are multiple ways to get there. The easiest way is you can just declare it and say, I'm here. This is where I'm happiest. This is where I'm a really good person. This is where my self-worth is at an all-time high. And I'm happy here. You can always do something slightly different to improve, right? But you can be happy at any place in your life. And it has nothing to do with the number. And so I went on a little bit of a rant right there, but really what I want to get into our minds that when we're trying to find out what number we need to be, man, let's give that up. Let's give up the notion of we have to hit a magical number, and 1 pound, 2 pounds above that means we're not doing so well. It's irrelevant. So as we go through here, and we say, a goal is a look and a feel. That's kind of what I'm getting at. And so then we go back all the way back to your journey, where you've been on this journey for many, 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 many years, which is fantastic. Because for many, 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 many years, you have been doing things to keep yourself engaged, keep yourself mindful of what it is you're trying to do. So the longer we're on the journey, it's a good thing, because I tell you, if I wasn't actively engaged in this community, I promise you it would be different, right? And so am I perfect at this? Absolutely not even close. But I'm always constantly engaged, and every single day I'm giving it thought. Sometimes I dismiss the thought, but the thought is always there. If I were to completely unplug and completely disengage, well, then the thoughts aren't going to be there. They just turn into negative thoughts inside the head. There's no positive thoughts counteracting the negative thoughts that I'm willing to conjure up on my own. And we all do that. We all have this internal shame or this internal embarrassment. And so the balance to that is to keep some of that at bay, is to stay actively engaged. And if you just kind of do okay at it, and you're just keeping you're suppressing enough of the bad stuff, and you're just kind of even through, that's victory. It really is. And, and I can relate to your story. As you talked about, going as a young child and going and buying a treat and hiding to eat it. I had this conversation with someone the other day. I remember driving to the store as a younger child, obviously old enough to drive, but so 15, 16, somewhere in that time frame. And my dad would hand me some money to go to the store and buy him something, and I'd ride down to the store. I'd buy whatever he wanted, and then I would buy a Mountain Dew and a bag of Doritos. And my goal was it was only a mile from the store, and I would make sure that they were gone before I got down. So I'm chugging a Mountain Dew on the way home, and I'm starving or forcing down a bag of Doritos, and I would throw them away in the outside garbage can so I didn't have to bring them in the house. Right? And at that point in my life, I was still an athlete. I mean, I was fit. I was still a high school athlete at that point. So playing, soccer and baseball. So, I mean, I had probably had a little bit of that, but not really. I was really in shape. And so that should have been a warning sign. If there's ever anyone going to research my life, let's start there and figure out why I was doing that, because I don't have a clue either. But certainly that plays into the bigger picture. And so we have to recognize these behaviors that we do. And when you sit there and you say, when you've had the opportunity to share it with the group, and that's, many, many, many years ago, and you still harbor that feeling, you still bring that feeling forward. What I want to tell you now is we can ditch the embarrassment. We can ditch the shame. We can get rid of the notion that we're not good enough. We can get rid of the notion that there's something wrong with us. And we can celebrate right now and say, you know what? I'm 68 years old. I'm still actively engaged in bettering my health. That's a victory, no matter where you are, no matter what's going on in your world. At 68, still plugging along, still actively trying to improve your life is a victory. So Nancy, thanks for doing this, and congratulations on your retirement. It certainly does, for some of us, it certainly does make it easier when you can then shift your focus to you, because that's the only thing going on. Many of us, we get in that habit of loving to take care of others, and we get devoted into our jobs, and certainly that takes a priority. And so here you are now with an opportunity to live your best life ever. The best life you've ever had is now yours for the making. Not for the taking. You've got to go make it. You've got to wake up every single day saying, what do I want to do to improve my life today? And you got to go do it. And you can do it. And it has nothing to do with the scale. Nancy, thanks for writing in. The last email from this show comes in out of Burtonsville, Maryland. Jeanette writes in, says, hi, Mike. I'm a new listener as well. Our WW coach said she'd been listening to your podcast, and even though I downloaded the app and knew who you were from Connect, I haven't listened. Anyway, my life has had a bunch of changes and transitions in the last few months, one of which was losing access to a treadmill last week. So I decided I need to take a walk every single day. While walking outdoors in the early morning, I decided to start listening to your podcast. I can fit 2 in per walk, so I figured in about 5 months I will have caught up with everything. I shared that I started listening to my workshop, and I said, hey, I'm tempted to share my story with FatDag. My coach said I should, so, well, here I am. I've always been the overweight kid. I was not athletic. I was bullied in school, actually. I'm also shy and introverted, sometimes painfully so. I use food as a Band-Aid. I'm no stranger to diets. I tried the Stillman Quick Teenage Diet, which was 100% protein and little else. I drank lots of water. That is the one good thing that I learned. And sure, I lost 50 pounds in the space of 3 months, but I put it back on and then some. Well, then I tried the liquid protein. Several of my family members tried that. Moderately successful, but again, I learned little. And I found the pounds that I'd lost and then some. In 1979, I tried WW. I wasn't particularly ready. I went with my aunt, who was also trying to lose weight, but wasn't too disciplined. I couldn't relate when, in the first meeting, the leader was excited that her first member reached goal. How much did that member lose? 10 pounds. I get now that is an achievement, but I sure didn't when I was 20 years old. That and my aunt and we would go up the street to a place called the Slimery that sold soft WW-friendly ice cream after the meeting was over. in 1984. I tried again. I was carrying around too much weight once more, and I went again with my aunt. We probably still went down for ice cream after the meeting, but this time, knowing a little bit more, and with the WW Exchange program, I lost over 100 pounds. I was excited about how I looked and how I felt, but my eating and exercise were all black and white, nothing in between. I was either all in or I wasn't. No wonder that was when I fell off the wagon. It was a hard fall. I eventually stopped attending WW, and even though I'd try for spurts, I'd quit, and the weight came right back on. I tried something different in 1996. I worked at the University of Maryland, and there was a wellness research lab that was run by a faculty member in the School of Public Health and managed by graduate students. I got access to a nutritionist and became addicted to exercising. And I even started running until the bad shoes triggered my plantar fasciitis. Then again, when I couldn't exercise the way I wanted, the pounds started creeping on again until I got to my highest weight ever. I was miserable. I topped out at 326.4 pounds. Everyone has a last straw, the moment that propels the action. Mine happened in the summer of 2007. I had developed some knee pain, not surprising given the amount of weight that I was carrying around, and one morning while doing something as routine as getting into my car, something twisted, and I literally could not walk with that excruciating pain. Turns out I had the beginnings of arthritis, and if you think it's difficult moving a heavy frame around on two good legs, well, try doing it with just one. I started walking with a cane, which for the then 48-year-old was pretty sad. When I went to my annual trip to Oregon for a music workshop, I went through security with a wheelchair. The attendant saw me fumbling with luggage and a cane. Well, on the one hand, it got me through security fairly quickly, but on the other hand, I felt really self-conscious and embarrassed. So when I saw the announcement about the WW at Work meeting, I resigned myself to going, knowing I needed to do something. And it was a godsend. An at-work meeting suited my schedule best. That's giving up my lunch hour rather than asking to give up a Saturday morning, which is the only day I can sleep in, or a weeknight, which given my schedule would drive me crazy. I lost weight again, and I felt on top of the world. I even survived losing one of my best friends that December to AIDS-related complications. He told me how proud he was of me on his deathbed. I'd lost about 50 pounds by then. I soldiered on, and by the fall of 2010, I'd lost 130 pounds. I was maybe 10 or so pounds from goal. I thought about working for WW, but that wasn't totally realistic given my schedule. Then in March of 2011, my dad passed away. It was somewhat sudden, but not at all surprising. A heart attack just shy of his 87th birthday. At that point, with my brother living in California, Mom became my responsibility. She was independent and sharp as a tack at 93, but I took over her finances and did things around the house for her. I was able to keep my weight off for a few months. Well, then it started creeping on once again. I knew this was a delayed reaction to Dad's passing, combined with what I thought was a bit of pressure from being responsible for Mom. In October of 2012, I tripped at work. I fell. I fractured my kneecap. I was unable to exercise for a long while, and I kept gaining. By 2015, I gained back all but 18 pounds and was back over 300. In that time, my WW leader changed. I didn't bond with the new one. I kept going. I was the client contact for our meeting. And then that summer, a coworker suggested I go to her meeting in Columbia, Maryland. I did, and I loved the leader. Meetings had plenty of people, a great community. I was inspired again, and I had success. We started a pre-meeting walk around the loop near the WW store. By January of 2017, I'd lost 115.6 pounds. And then Mom's health started to fail. She was 99 then. In January 2019, I got a call from the ER. She called 911 because she had problems catching her breath and nearly died from congestive heart failure. Last November, I found her unresponsive one Sunday afternoon as she passed away a couple hours later in the hospital at age 102. As Mom's health failed, my weight went up about 10 pounds or so every year. I'd been focusing more on her health and not on my own. Now it was time to deal with my own grief, the aftermath of losing a parent, the responsibility of being the executor of her estate, dealing with many questions, mostly about what to do with the house. I went for my physical in January. My lab numbers were overall worse because of the 35 pounds I put on since 2017. A couple of weeks later, I began to take care of me. Since February 1st, I've lost 34 pounds, and my current loss since my highest weight in 2007 is 115.4. I'm 0.2 pounds away from 2017 low weight in the Columbia workshop. And I'm 3 pounds away from losing 100 pounds since joining this workshop. My clothes fit again. Our awesome coach resigned to take care of her little girl and was replaced by an equally awesome coach. I look forward to our virtual WW workshop each Saturday because, well, that's my community. I decided to sell the family house. It was painful and emotional. I'm going to use the proceeds from that sale to sell my condo. It has steps, which is not an issue now, but it will be in 10 to 15 years, and I want to buy something on one level. One of the advantages of having to telework because of COVID-19 is the gift of time. I had time to carefully consider what I wanted in the house. I got to use a treadmill there until the house cleared out. My brother and sister-in-law were going to travel here in April, but they couldn't. We found a way of dividing up what each of us wanted, and I adapted. Each year in January, our coach asked us to come up with a word for the year. Before I knew Oprah's tour name, I chose vision, appropriate for 2020. I adapted to the circumstances in the world and in my life, and I looked at the big picture in my life. I think I can add another word for now, triumph. About 25 pounds from goal. I'm not looking at the entire number, but I'm breaking it into smaller increments. I've kept my good focus, and I hope to remove the rest of the weight over the next few months. Thanks for listening. It's good to get my story in writing. Jeanette. Jeanette, what a fun story. Thanks for really taking the time to put that out. And I love how you ended it, because you ended it how I often tell folks and encourage folks to write in, is sometimes you just got to get it out of your head. You just got to get it out. If you press send on top of that, that's a bonus because then other people get to listen. But even if you don't press send, you've got to take the time to do just what she did right there and say, I just need this. I just need the clutter gone. Not that it's ever really going away, but you can just release a lot of emotional energy by just thinking through it, writing through it, and putting it down on paper. So thank you for that. And so what I heard in your email, and I'm going to paraphrase a lot. What I heard in your email is that you are incredibly successful at doing this. And then when life comes at you, you kind of get in this mindset of you jump into being the caregiver and you put yourself on the back burner. And then when everything settles, you are incredibly awesome at taking care of you again. So that's an amazing testament to your strength and your resolve, is that you can do this. When we ask the 5 questions, do you believe this is possible? You can say, yes, I believe it's possible. Not only do I believe it's possible, I've done it more than once. So I know I can do this. So now what we have to do, which is where all of us now should be kind of focusing on our energy, is how do I shift my life in such a way where the things that even in the midst of the most crazy stress going on in my world, I'm still choosing better. I'm still taking care of me. Even in the scenarios where the anything but you seems to be the priority. And so that's kind of where we're all at, is that we go through these cycles, and there isn't a person around that doesn't understand that this is doable from a standpoint of the math. I've said this more than once. The math side of this is easy. The program side of this is easy. The difficult side of this is life. And so we have to figure out how to find a way to balance everything we're doing and make it work in any lifestyle that we have going up. We do that by taking the decision out of many of our decisions, taking that option out of your brain. And what you have to do is you got to get to the point where the automatic response is the response that supports the life you want to have for the rest of your life. The automatic response, the default reaction, the thing you do without thinking about it, that has to be the thing that moves you in the direction to where you want to go. You do that by practice. You do that by doing exactly what you've done is you've proven to yourself you absolutely can do this. You've proven it time and time and time and time again. So now what we do is once you prove it as you're proving it right now, is start making things more habitual. Start making things where I'm just doing them consistently. If you have something, a routine that's working for you, do it frequently. Keep adding to it so you're constantly doing it so it builds in the routine. And I'm going on a tangent. It's one of the things here where I talk about the calendar, the moving, eating, and thinking goals. Is I want you to set a goal in each of those lanes that is ridiculously easy so you can do it for a long period of time, because that's what's going to build the habit. That's what's going to make it so that in the most dire stress stages of your life, you've considered yourself to be still good at these things and you do them automatically when you don't have time to think. And so you're going through this the right way. And I really want to say thanks to your coach for sending you into the podcast and for you to then taking the action and writing it in. Hello to your entire team out there for sure. But thank you for that. And I want to end on a little bit of note is one of the interesting things, and I hear this from time to time, is we get into this journey and we find someone who inspires us. We find someone who motivates us. Whether it be your WW coach, whether it be a friend of yours, whether it be your favorite podcast, you find somebody that you can relate to for some reason, way or some shape or form, and you move and you go for it. Then all of a sudden your life changes, the coach changes, the scenario changes. Something happens and that inspiration, that motivation is missing, and we back away. And so I want you to understand, I want you to get to the point, all of you, and you've heard me say this before, as people say, thanks, FatDag, you changed my life. And I almost always will answer with, no, I didn't change your life. I didn't do anything near there. All I did was chat into a microphone. You heard something that made you go change your life. I don't want credit for changing your life because I didn't do it. You did. And so I want us all to really think about that for a second. And I want us to dive into, what are we doing? What are you doing? What are you doing right now that's moving yourself in a direction where you want to be? And it's not that I'm doing it for you, because I can't do it for you. There's nothing I can do other than just keep yakking into a microphone, and all of a sudden you hear something, but you have to then stop listening and go act on what you hear. It's the action piece that is the most powerful. It's not the inspiration. It's not the motivation. It's not the plan. It's not the tool. It's the action. The action piece is where everything happens. That's 100% on you. And when I ask you who is responsible for your success, what I'm really asking is, who has to take the action? I can develop a plan for you. I can motivate you. I can inspire you. I can talk to you. I can connect you into communities. But I cannot take the action for you. Who is responsible for your success? Who gives you the opportunity to celebrate? Well, that's you. That's only you. And when you get there, please share it back. Because when you share it back, someone else hears something and it empowers them to then go take the action. And that's the piece we celebrate. What is it that you celebrate? What is it that you're celebrating? Let's share it on the air. Let's go to fatdag.com. Send in your emails, your celebrations, your comments. I'll work them in as part of the show. Like I said at the beginning of the show, Lisa emailed me that day and said, we need email. That was the subject of the email. So on air at fatdag.com. Send it in today. I want to know, let's specifically talk about March through June of 2020. Tell me about your COVID story. I want to hear your COVID story. I want to share that piece on the next couple podcasts as we roll forward. But I want you to continue emailing in your celebrations, because I really do want you to be proud of what you're doing. I want you to get it down on paper. I just want you to feel good, to have that emotional release, to kind of just put it out there. Let the world know how awesome you are, because we already know it, but let's share it with the rest of the world. That's going to do it for this time. Remember that losing weight and getting healthy has nothing to do with luck. You have to remain disciplined and focused. Set your sights on your goal and go after it. From Jacob, editing remotely, Lisa and Heather from the content production team, and Janine sitting across from me doing Facebook, we wish you good focus.